Welcome to Women Talking Soccer. I'm your host, Carrie Taylor. The goal of this podcast is to amplify the voices of all women who love the beautiful game. Whether you're on the field, cheering from the stands, work in the business, want to be in the business, or are a passionate change maker, your voice is important. This podcast is presented by Women in Soccer. Women in Soccer is a network of women and allies involved in our favorite sport. You can join Women in Soccer for free online at womeninsoccer.org. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Women Talking Soccer. Today, I have an amazing guest, Hope Powell, who really needs no introduction. She's been a pioneer in the game, former English women's national team player and coach, played and coached in numerous World Cups, and is really, truly just an amazing woman who's led the way for so many of us within the game. So Hope, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today. And can you just kind of give our listeners a little bit of your background and how you kind of came through the game from a player into a coach?
Firstly, thank you for having me, Carrie. Nice to finally meet you. A little bit about my background. Football for me started from a very young age. I used to play street football with the boys, not organised, just a street kid really. And then at the age of 11, I got into organised football, which I was really thankful for, with a club called Mill Lionesses. Got to play on a proper pitch and proper grass, proper goals with proper kit. So that was great. And as I sort of, started playing, grew up, got a bit older, I very quickly realised that I wanted a career in the game. And so I decided at a very young age, at the time I couldn't be a professional footballer. There were no females, that wasn't afforded to women. It was just men at the time. So I thought, how would I stay in the game? And the only thing I could think of was to coach. So I started a coaching journey while playing at the age of 17. Continued coached while I played, and obviously still playing football, played international football, still coaching. And then I got an opportunity with the FA, and really my coaching career as a full-time coach. I was coaching part-time while I was playing, but as a full-time coach started when I was at the FA in 1998. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Did you, when you got into coaching, did you have any like mentors that kind of helped you along the way? Encourage you, were they there for you to lean on?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very fortunate that my club coach, when I played for Mill Lionesses, when at the age of 17, when I told him I sort of wanted to go into coaching, he gave me the opportunity to do some coaching at Millwall, mentored me, guided me, gave me really good advice about coaching on the pitch as well as managing people off the pitch, which is also a part of it. And to this day, he's still my mentor, still involved with me. If I've got, anything I want to talk through, we still have that relationship today. So I was very grateful. I needed it as a young coach. I needed somebody that could guide me and give me support. And I was thankful that I got it from him.
Yeah, that's amazing to have someone that could, and still continues to help you. Mentors for me have been, the lifeblood of being involved in coaching. And I think you and I are of similar ages. We didn't have a lot of female role models who were doing what we were trying to do along the way. So,
exactly.
That's kind of the tough thing. Were there any particular challenges kind of along the way that, gave you pause, made you reconsider what you were doing? Or, you've had a career on the brightest stage as a player and as a coach, but what are some of the things that you faced I guess, along the way? Because I know our listeners are really interested in kind of hearing about,
Um,
you know, not only the positives, but maybe some hard times that you were able to get through and how you manage those.
yeah, I think you know, one of the main challenges while going on a coaching journey back then was the fact that, you know, at the time there weren't many other females that were coaching. You were quite often the only female, and you know, there'd be, I guess, question marks around your knowledge and your ability to coach. So that was always quite challenging. Always felt like you had to be better. You had to prove a point. You had to, um, you know, put yourself in a position where you always had to constantly prove that you were as good as, if not better than, your male counterparts. So
Mm-hmm.
that was always quite challenging. And even, you know, times where you would perhaps doubt your ability because you were in an environment where ordinarily women wouldn't be in. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, the questions of, God, am I good enough? And you know, it was quite scary. So that in itself was a challenge to you know, go there and perform and, you know, get these coaching badges and keep going back. That was always quite challenging. And I think as well, getting the opportunity to practice as a coach. I was very lucky that I had a mentor who was male that could would allow me to coach in the environment. If I hadn't have had that, I'm not sure what I would have done to get the practice and be able to learn. So there were a few challenges. You know, your family are not quite sure whether it's a career pathway for a female. You know, really
I
go
can
and do,
relate to that.
yeah, and having to convince that this is something you want to do. And you know, my passion was just to be paid in the game. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm not sure that was seen as a good career pathway at the time. Why would you choose to be a coach? It's a men's game and things like that. So yeah, they're and even today, as a female in the game, there are still challenges. I
Mm-hmm.
think, you know, the still the questions around whether females have the knowledge of football, which is, you know, makes me laugh really. So yes, I had my fair share.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's the challenge today is a lot of us are, you know, getting asked the same questions, like how do
Yeah,
we get more women into coaching? How do we support women in the game? And, you know, I was talking to a college coach here in the States the other day, and she said, I got asked, like, how do we get more women in coaching? And her response was, you hire them.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you hire them and you allow them to kind of get on the job experience along
Mhm.
the way, which, you know, I've seen underqualified men get jobs, and I'm not on here to bash men by any means, but I've seen underqualified men get jobs and overqualified women kind of be overlooked. So kind of
Absolutely.
what's your perspective on, you know, how we get more women into coaching, how we keep more women in the game?
Yeah, first of all, I would absolutely agree with you, that females who have got qualifications more than their male counterparts do get overlooked. I think it is about opportunities. You know, nobody over the years I've heard this argument: there aren't enough qualified female coaches. There are more than enough qualified female coaches, and it is really about, as you said, hiring them. It is about giving opportunities and supporting them in their journey. Um, and that is the game changer, really. You know, when there are opportunities, if females are qualified, um, and they've got the experience to do the job, then give them the job. You know, that's the only way things will change. And I know that's slowly happening. Um, but still there's more opportunities that are not given to females when probably they should be. And I just think it is solely about giving the opportunity and giving them the support to do the job.
Yeah, you know, being based here in the US, looking at our professional women's soccer league, the NWSL, there's 10 teams, yet there's only one female GM and one female head coach within the
Yeah.
game. How does the landscape look within the professional leagues in England? You know, at both levels? What's the kind of percentages? I know, yourself, Emma, is coaching over there. What's kind of the
Yeah,
breakdown of
yeah,
females coaching in the pro leagues in England?
yeah. It's definitely shifted. I'm just now counting in my head. There's myself. There's Emma. There's Rianne at Tottenham.
Oh
There's
yeah.
West Ham have got a Mal. Bristol. There's Tanya, who's on maternity leave, but she's the head coach at Bristol. Villa have got a female head coach, although have just brought in a male head coach, so I'm not sure who's the head coach there anymore. So the numbers are better than they were a few years ago. Casey Stoney at Man United, so I'd probably say it's probably a 50-50 split. So it's probably better than it's ever been. Oh, and Reading as well. So it's probably in favour of women at the moment. And I'm hoping that continues. I think it just shows that there are the numbers of female coaches that are qualified to a standard. You look at Emma at Chelsea doing very, very well, Reading doing very, very well. It just shows that there is, number one, an appetite, and number two, that female coaches are good enough.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Where do you see the growth of your professional league within the next 5 years, or where would you like to see it, as far as like financial, where you're getting your players from? What are the dreams?
I think I'm hoping that the league is sustainable, over years to come. I know there's been some issues in the USA with the league folding. I hope we never get to that. It's based on the backing of the men's clubs, and I hope they continue to back it. It will be great to see our championship teams. There are more full-time athletes there. That would be great if that whole pathway would be put full-time. So we have the WSL and the championship full-time athletes. I think that would really raise the standard of the league. And then we have what's called an academy. We have academy structures underneath that, and regional talent centres under that. I'm hoping that the academies become more professional with dedicated staff. A lot of the staff are part-time, and there's a real pathway for those academy players to flourish, and certainly like a club at Brighton, that they can flourish through our pathway. But there needs to be some full-time support network to support the development of those players. I think our club, we do a really good job of that, but still I would argue too many of our coaches are casual staff, which means that they can come and go, and what they've done, the work they've done, goes with them.
Right.
Quite like to sort of develop that area if it was possible.
So at where you're at now at Brighton, Hove, Albion, what's a day in the life, or kind of like a look like for you and your staff? Like, how much support do you have?
I must say, we're not the biggest club by any stretch of the imagination, but I think our foundations are really good. Our infrastructure is brilliant. So obviously, if I look at certainly our first, we have a clear pathway. Our first team, we have dedicated physios, we have dedicated psychologists, we have dedicated exercise scientists, dedicated coaching staff, all full time to support the players. So I think we have a really good infrastructure to support any player that comes into our environment. Day to day, we're on the every day changes depending on the schedule. If we play on a Sunday, we'll train and load the players accordingly. If we play midweek, we'll train and load the players accordingly. And it just depends what part of the season we're in. Obviously, pre-season, we're in most days. As the season kicks on, we balance it out in terms of game and loading ratios. So it's a fully supported professional structure in the club, and no 2 days are the same.
Yeah. That's the life of any coach right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next question, like looking over your career and all the experiences that you've had, is there anything that you know now that you wish you maybe would have known 10 years ago that might have made you a better coach? Or, is there any knowledge? I mean, hindsight's always 2020, but like,
Yeah, and this is, I'm being really serious here. A second language.
good point.
Learn a
Good
second
point.
language. I think with the influx of players now moving all over the world, you know, English players going to French players coming to England, and you know, learn a second language. You know, so that you can, you know, speak if you need to in that second language. I wish I'd have certainly learnt, you know, French, Spanish, German, perhaps.
Yeah.
So definitely, and that can only help you translate your coaching and what you want out of the player if they don't obviously speak English.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really, really good point. That's yeah. I only speak one language, and I'm like, yeah, I need to work on Spanish or something.
Yeah.
Just to it's hard to learn that as an adult, though. I feel like it's like
Oh yeah, for
really
sure.
really
For
have to
sure.
invest some time into that.
Yeah. Thank God for Google Translate, but it's not quite
Yep.
the same.
Yeah, we had a French or a player from the Congo. I was involved with a men's pro team here in San Diego, and we had a player from the Congo that spoke no English and French was it. And if the Google Translate sometimes doesn't always translate it in the proper way. So
Absolutely.
there's always some good laughs over Google Translate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So this is a hypothetical question, but like years from now, when you're retired,
Mm-hmm.
how do you want people to describe you when they say who is Hope Powell as a coach? What would you hope that people would say about you?
I know what they'd probably say. I don't know what the hopes are. I know what they'd probably say, that I was scary, which I'm not. Yeah, I think passionate about the game, honest about the game. Um, you know, believed in playing the game a certain way and stuck to principles. Fair, hard but fair,
Mm-hmm.
and generally an okay coach.
Yeah. You bring up a really, really good point that I think a lot of women in the game have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing out of your mouth was scary, but I'm not. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I I've had situations, and a lot of my colleagues where, as a woman, if you're strong, if
Yeah.
you're vocal, if you're outspoken, you're often regarded in a different way than a male doing that, and that's a struggle. I mean, I've been told I'm a downright bitch, and I'm like, I'm really not. I'm just like
Yeah. Yeah.
intense, and yes, I'm focused, and I have drive, and I don't let anyone push me around. And
Yeah.
women are often misinterpreted. Are there times where you can think of where you've been maybe misinterpreted within a situation?
Yeah, probably every day, or a lot of my career. I think one thing that I made a promise to myself, um, listen, I'm a black female,
Mm-hmm.
in this world and in this game, and one thing I promised to myself, and I guess this is part of my upbringing, is that I would never compromise myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people have those perceptions of me, then fair enough. I think one thing you will get is honesty, but I'm not going to change who I am just because you think I'm scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's for you to deal with and not me.
Yeah.
Um, and I refuse to compromise myself. I have values that I believe in, that I try and live by, and I do that in a working life. And sometimes it's certainly in the industry we're in, and you're dealing with athletes, and you want more out of athletes, you have to demand more. You and you can't shy away from that. And I believe in being honest, and that is quite hard for some people to take. And whose problem is that? It's not my problem.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I mean, I just believe in being who I am, and I'm not about to change. I'm number one, I'm too old, but even in my younger years, I just thought I'm not going to compromise who I am just because you find, I don't know, that you find me scary. It's a nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I don't find you scary at all. You've been amazing to talk to, and very, very easy to connect with. So
yeah,
I'm sure your players probably don't find you scary.
No. I mean, you know what they'll get is honesty, and I'll be very direct. But it's the world in which we live in. It's performance driven. It's results based. And you know, that's the environment we're in, and therefore you have to respond accordingly to it.
Yeah. Well, a couple more questions before we wrap this up. Do you have, and I asked this of all the guests, do you have like a favorite quote or a mantra that, gets you out of bed in the morning, or when you're trying to make a tough decision that you kind of go back to as your guiding principle?
No, in short. No, not at all. No, I just I just deal with things as they come and as they occur, and try and do the best I can in any given moment. And no moment is the same. So
yeah,
the thought of going back to one thing, or I couldn't do that. I just deal with it as and when it occurs, and just be as authentic as I can in that moment.
Yeah. That's authenticity is definitely a key quality and value to live by. Another question I asked all the guests: are there any favorite books that have helped you in your coaching or in your life that you would recommend for people to check out?
I don't know if there's any one favorite. I think you can take bits of lots.
Give me a couple. Give me a couple good reads.
I'm just looking around. James Kerr, Legacy.
Oh, I love that. That's one of my favorites. Love it.
I don't know. You've got, I don't know, Black Box Thinking.
Okay.
Matthew Syed, The Gold Mine Effect. Ramsden Ankerson is Danish. I mean, there's. I think if you can get one thing or two things out of any book, and you can use that. There's so many good books that have been written. Taking the time to read them all sometimes is a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So quite often I pick things up and put them down. I don't necessarily sit there and read cover to cover, page to page. I just take bits where I can.
Yeah, Legacy that's a book I kind of go back to periodically. There's a lot of good stuff in there. For sure. Okay, well, in closing, are there any like words of wisdom that you'd like to kind of maybe give to our listeners that could be up and coming coaches or women out there that are trying to find their way within the game that you can share?
I think for certainly a young female coach that is passionate about the game is you're going to come up with a lot of challenges. Perhaps a lot of people that might make you feel that you're not good enough, might make you feel that you're not capable. I think you need to trust yourself. First and foremost, you have to trust yourself and your own ability before anything else. And then I would definitely, get a mentor that believes in you and someone you believe in that can support you on that journey, because it will be up and it will be down, but really trust. And that's the only way that it's scary. The journey is scary. It can be scary. There's lots of times when I've gone, no, I don't want to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. But then I've had to actually, you are good enough, and you can do this, and this pain of fear won't last forever, and you're good enough to get through it. I think you really have to be of a mindset that you can ride the rough.
Mm-hmm.
Really ride it. And you know, it's nice. Probably a bit nicer today. There are more females doing coaching courses that you can use as a support network,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is brilliant. I never had that in my day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the one thing for me personally. Like now I feel like I need to reach back. I need to be a resource for young up and coming coaches, so that maybe, you know, those of us that have been through those challenges can maybe, you know, help make it easier for the women that come behind us, and give them advice of, you know, maybe situations where we you know, navigated it one way, but could give advice to navigate it another. So that's,
Sure.
you know, that's one thing that I'm really kind of trying to do is, if someone says, "Hey, can I talk to you?" or, you know, hits me up on LinkedIn, I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's have a conversation." Because
Yeah.
just being able
Yeah.
to share those experiences.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. And that's one thing I must say that women are good at, sharing
Mm-hmm.
and giving back. And I would argue that it's probably a lot easier for a young aspiring female coach to make those connections today than it perhaps was in our day. So definitely draw on, you know, other people's experiences to help you navigate your way through.
Yeah. Well, Hope, thank you so very much for taking the time to come on the show today. And I really appreciate you and all you've done for the sport that we all love. You know, you've been a fantastic role model and leader for people in England and people in the US. And, you know, I remember seeing you on the sideline in the World Cup going, "She's a badass." Like, I love that. And so, you know, I
It's
wish
very
you the best of luck with Brighton and Hove Albion, and I'll be following the team, and just, you know, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.